Welcome to DC Daily. I am Amy, and today I am joined by my own little hench crew. Hey, Hector Navarro and Sam Humphries.
What's up, y'all? How you doing?
Hi.
Today we are talking about the season 2 finale of Harley Quinn, and it did not disappoint. Ivy made her choice, guys.
Yeah, she did. Oh,
crazy.
She did. Certainly.
Incredible.
We've been waiting for it.
Leading up to this moment.
We've been counting down to it. We've been hoping for it. We've been watching this roller coaster, and it's finally here. But first, let's talk about this wedding.
Us Weekly would have gone nuts at this wedding.
Very 2014 Pinterest.
Yes, very 2014 Pinterest. The mason jars.
I want to point out, too, Poison Ivy's wedding dress was gorge. That was
Perfect.
A stunning wedding dress. And even the bridesmaids dresses that had like the little motif of some ivy foliage, like that was great too.
Yes. Honestly, costume design is one of my favorite things to geek out on, and it applies just as much to the non-superhero costume parts of the way you tell your story. And the way that they showed Ivy with the dress she didn't want earlier and the qualities of the dress that she ultimately goes with was just, it was chef's kiss. It was perfect. It was a great look. She had her little flowers in her hair. When she, spoiler alert, is talking to Harley about growth, you get all of the visuals there. And also, the bridesmaids dresses were fabulous. People complain about bridesmaids dresses, but the whole Cobb Squad looked fabulous.
The Cobb Squad reunited, back in action, looking good. This show does a great job of making these characters look like themselves even when they're not in costume, which is a struggle sometimes, but Ivy always looks like Ivy. Harley always looks like Harley, even when they're in disguise, even when they're in casual clothes. But Amy, I know you were psyched to see the Cobb Squad back together again, right?
Yes, I was not on our recap of the Bachelorette episode, but y'all know I was in love with that episode. The way they used Themyscira, the personalities of every character, the twists and turns, obviously certain other events. It was just a win. Just a win across the board. It was so good. And it was very nice to see them again.
I love so many of these characters and side characters and tertiary characters and all of this incredible cast. But I may have liked the addition of Selena Kyle's date, who may or may not be Tim Burton, simply because of the fact that we got to experience Clayface using his lung capacity of an Adam Lambert, which was the funniest thing. Moved Clayface to tears, moved this wedding guest to tears. It was awesome.
Moved me to tears. His singing sounded so good, and it was the perfect accompaniment for not just the climax of the episode, but the climax of 2 seasons.
Speaking of which, though, we got so many fun supervillains as guests at this wedding. We got Man-Bat again, we got Felix Faust and Livewire, and who were your favorite background guys?
Oh, man. I love Maxie Zeus, especially this Maxie Zeus voiced by Will Sasso. It was fun to see him there. I'm like, how did he get an invite? Everybody's so gross. He's so gross.
He's clearly Nora's +1. She's rebounding. I'm trying to make excuses for her.
She's got a type.
He's the worst. But her last boyfriend was Mr. Freeze. So, all right, what about the people who weren't invited? No Joker, no Riddler. Who do you think is the most mad that they did not get this invite?
I'm fine with Joker not being invited, but I'm kind of disappointed that Beth didn't get an invite because I would have loved to have seen her show up.
I gotta go with Damien, but I am pleased that the Joker was not here because this is not about the Joker and Harley's relationship with Joker. So I was glad that he didn't make a random ass appearance and messing up the emotional dynamic that we all want to see. But as far as like wedding guests, I think the award for best wedding guest has to go to Clayface because not only was he a guest, but he was also the entertainment.
Yes.
So you saved one seat. You know, each plate at a wedding is mucho buckarunos, and they just saved a lot of money with Clayface. Also, I don't think he really eats food, so fine.
Speaking of showing up and making a mess of things, we had a few more uninvited guests at this wedding. And this I love because this is the regular sort of superhero storytelling playing out in the background, but reversed for us because we are rooting for Poison Ivy's wedding not to get shut down by the GCPD. That's what Jim Gordon is trying to make happen. Can we talk about the GCPD at the wedding?
I think it can be summed up with Jim Gordon's own undercover saying, "Can I get an amen?" She says in that Irish accent.
I love Jim Gordon as a master of disguise here. I used to be that my favorite master of disguise was Matches Malone, Matthew Matches Malone, a.k.a. Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. Batman.
Surprised he wasn't at the wedding, by the way.
I know, but Jim Gordon did a fantastic job, and I would love to see a season 3 that's all about Jim Gordon, master of disguise.
I continually want him to get his S together, but there's nothing more fun than a unhinged Jim Gordon. And he was like duped into doing this because of Two-Face's manipulation, because of Two-Face, who's a politician. Let's not forget that. So it's a great take on Two-Face and a great take on politicians that this guy convinced Gordon to do something he should not have done for the popularity. It's so much fun to watch and hear Christopher Maloney's Jim Gordon just be the most extra. It's great. But yeah, I would love for him to get his stuff together, but that's not what the show's about.
I do love the fact that this show has us so thoroughly on the side of our main characters that if you told me out of context, there's a story where Jim Gordon finds out 2 supervillains are getting married and a bunch of people are going to be there and he plans to infiltrate and attack, I would be like, cool story, he's the good guy. And in this context, you're like, go away! What are you doing? It's their day! So speaking of the big day, y'all, I have been so bursting to talk about this. Ivy makes her choice. Kite Man makes his choice.
Yeah.
And it all ends with, I'm going to jump straight here. I think the absolute perfect homage to the original Batman the Animated Series Harley and Ivy episode that we've talked about on this show, where they drive away in their convertible together, declaring their love for each other. It is like you wait 20 years for that to blossom into this 2 seasons of storytelling culminating in that drive. And I was deliriously happy.
I knew how it was going to end because Patrick Schumacher told me months and months ago. He told me what the last shot was going to be, this riding off into the sunset. And when he told me that, I was like, oh my God, that's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Here's the thing though. I am so impressed with this show because as Patrick and Justin were telling us in an interview that we just recently did, they had written every single episode before the first episode aired. Meaning none of these 2 seasons were written knowing what the fans loved and what they were asking for and what they were hoping for. And to go back to episode 1, I want to remind everybody to go back to episode 1. Harley Quinn still being really painfully in love with the Joker and how much of an abusive relationship that was. And that the show initially was like, this is about Harley breaking away from that relationship. And from episode 1, they were planting seeds. Yes, that's a pun on purpose. For a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy friendship that will blossom into more than that. And using the precedents of hints in previous animated series, in comic books, anytime that they've had a relationship there. And I am just so impressed that the 2 seasons were able to do that in a way that was not telegraphed from episode 1. Like it really was like, oh man, what's Ivy doing with this Kite Man guy? He's the worst. And then we get to this point and I'm like, Kite Man, get out of there, bud. Like you deserve, I'm just so blown away and so impressed that this whole thing was mapped out before episode 1 aired.
I am particularly impressed by the journey that this show took me on with Kite Man. I would love like a supercut of my feelings about Kite Man over time, especially since, as you say, they had the whole thing ready in advance, because I hardcore hated him at first.
Yeah.
And they brought me organically to this point where I was like, hell yeah, Kite Man. You do deserve better. Also, you have other things to work on, but you definitely are making the right call in this moment, and I'm proud of you.
When he said, I may be simple, but I'm not a fool, I was like, that is brilliant. And that sums up how I feel about the character. I think he is a simple guy, for better or for worse. He's got stuff to work on, but he's not a fool. And it's been really fun to see his whole backstory, get to root for him, like where he came from with his parents, having superpowers and he has none. All the stuff that they added to the idea of the character of Kite Man has made me really love this version of Kite Man. So yeah, I felt great for him when he was like, I need to get out of here because we'll never be on the same page. I was like, yeah, okay, great.
Well, and it's beautiful that he gets to have an active choice in that. You know what I mean? He's not just the guy who gets left at the altar by Ivy, even though I was rooting for him to get left at the altar by Ivy. They found a way to make me, like, even happier about it. And then they drive off into the sunset, y'all. It's so beautiful. All right, it can't just be 15 minutes of me talking about how excited I am. So, what were your other favorite moments from this episode? How about that key to the city?
I loved seeing Space Cabbie. I love seeing who I believe is Tommy Tomorrow. Right? I think is who that was. I loved
Vibe. Was that Vibe up there?
Vibe was there too. Yeah,
Vibe. Uh-huh.
To hear the mayor say, "Thank you, Space Cabbie. We couldn't have done it without you." I'm like, he has not been in this show.
I loved during the wedding scene where Poison Ivy's knocked unconscious by the gas and Kite Man picks her up like this, and he's holding her. He goes like this. It is an homage to the cover of Crisis on Infinite Earth 7 with Superman holding dead Supergirl. Of course, an iconic cover, and this is like an Easter egg that lasts like a split second, if that. It's like there, and if you blink, you miss it. But that is the kind of level of attention of detail they do on this show.
I love seeing Frank the Plant in a shirt when they broke into Arkham to try to get Harley out. Just to see him in a little shirt, up to his like face, head, body. It's so funny. It's so great.
And Harley refusing to go with him because she really doesn't want to mess it up, and she's trying so hard to be different, and then she's really worried that she's been duped, but she actually spots all the clues. Y'all, I love it. I love it so much.
And then the moment where Jim Gordon tries to give vegan donuts to the cops, and they don't like that. At first, I was outraged on behalf of our Harley Quinn Smith, but then again, I realized like those are the bad guys. So I think that's okay. I think that.
But also, I feel like the joke is on them because they're already eating the donuts, which are clearly fine.
This is the final episode of the season, but the penultimate episode, the episode before this, was the one that had the big blockbuster set pieces, all the big action moments, the huge climax of the Justice League and all the bad guys of the city and the burning and like all that kind of stuff. That was in the penultimate episode, not the final episode. A lot of people would save that for the final moments, but they had the finale be focused on the emotional climax, right? Which is the thing that they truly have been building for 2 seasons, which is the emotional heart of the season. It's Harley and Ivy and figuring out where they're going to go, where their hearts are taking them, and if they're taking them on the same path. And it's incredibly sophisticated storytelling to believe in your emotional climax to that degree, to give it what is essentially center stage, instead of trying to bury it under, Batman shooting a robot with a bazooka of cotton candy or, whatever.
Go on. I'm into it.
They really bet on themselves as winners here, and I think it really, really paid off.
All right, so it did pay off. It was an amazing finale as far as I'm concerned for this season. What do you think overall about 2 seasons of Harley Quinn, the animated series, and what do you want next?
I am a huge fan of this series. I was blown away. I was not expecting to love this series as much as I did. I think it surprised a lot of people with how good it was. We were expecting a good time with an R-rated Harley Quinn, right? We're all expecting like this is going to be fun, but this hit hard emotionally. And my biggest thing that I want for season 3 is I want seasons 1 and 2 to be released on Blu-ray with some special features, some behind the scenes, some commentary, some making of.
Perhaps?
I want some special feature, baby. I love me some special feature and physical media. I love watching the show on DC Universe. I cannot wait to see more of the show. Hopefully we get a season 3, but I would really love some Blu-ray releases. That's what I'm thinking about.
And as for these 2 seasons overall, I have a bit of a hot take. In that, I'm here to say, I've thought this for a while, but I am here to say that this show is one of the best Harley Quinn stories ever in any medium. It rises to the top of every Harley Quinn in comics, Batman the Animated Series, in the movies, in the video games, any appearance of any Harley Quinn ever, and I've read and watched almost all of them. This is the cream of the crop. They did such a great job, and it was such a wild experience to be writing Harley Quinn while watching this Harley Quinn. But I have nothing but applause for Patrick and Justin and their whole crew and everybody who worked on this show. They did a fantastic job.
They did it with so much intelligence, with surprises, with tons of comic book storytelling infusing every single episode. Honestly, I'm so impressed by it. I'm so glad that we got to talk about it all together and watch a lot of it together. Thank you to everybody who tweets us their thoughts about this stuff as well, because it's really fun. And I personally am going to hope for tons more. I'm just saying.
We need more. We need a season 3.
A round of applause from all of us at DC Daily for how just much fun.
Do it. Make
them kiss. Make them kiss. Secret
Option
3.
Yay!
All right, then. Like Harley and Ivy, we are going to drive off into the sunset. But first, Sam Humphries, I hear you have quite the comic book collection.
I do. I have at least 6 comic books, and I pulled out some of my most favorite treasures from my collection from over the years. I can't wait to show it to everybody. So to all of you out there, stick around because I'm about to give you the grand tour. Hey everybody, it is I, Sam the Hammer Humphries, and welcome to another episode. Well, no, this is not just another episode of DC Daily. No, I'm taking you behind the scenes. That's right. Welcome to my office where we shoot DC Daily. Where will I shoot DC Daily? That's right. We are all at home. We are all shooting DC Daily from home. Look, there's my setup. There's my set. That is where the magic happens, but this is where the magic lives. Here in this closet. Yes, that's right. It is my comic book collection. Look at all these boxes full of comics. These are comics that I bought when I was a kid. These are comics I bought as an adult. These are comics that I wrote. A dream come true. There's all sorts of hidden treasures in here. This, y'all, this right here is the very first DC comic I ever bought. This is Batman 433. This issue is very contemporaneous with Batman 89. That's right, the big film with Michael Keaton. The hype from that movie inspired me to buy not just my first Batman comic, but my first DC comic of all time. And this is great because it's written by John Byrne, who was one of my favorite creators back in the day, and is drawn by Jim Aparo, who is still to this day one of my top 4 Batman artists of all time. He's on my Batman artist Mount Rushmore. It's such a great hook, great concept. It's called The Many Deaths of the Batman. And look, it's his mask with a blade through it, and then you open it up and you read it, and it is almost entirely dialogue free. This is how good Jim Aparo was as an artist. He told an entire issue of Batman with no dialogue whatsoever. This was the birth of my DC journey. This is where it all started for me. Now this is a DC book. It's very special to me, even though it isn't a comic. This is the DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics, and it is created by Denny O'Neil. And this is a book that I bought when I first started getting serious about wanting to write comics, because I wanted to learn from a master such as Denny O'Neil. But when I bought this book, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't know really how to be a writer. I didn't know even what I didn't know yet. And it was books like this, and particularly this one, that taught what makes a great DC comic, that really got me on my way. This is pencils from a comic book. Not just any comic book, but from an issue of Green Lanterns. This is drawn by none other than Robson Rocha, the dynamic masterpiece Robson Rocha. This is from Green Lanterns issue 25. This is page 11. We did a lot of issues of Green Lanterns together. At the end of our run, Robson was so nice and offered to gift me a piece of original art for myself, and I picked this page. Not only is it a gorgeous full-page splash image, but it embodies what I think are the 2 key elements to the run that we did together. One is, you can see here, they're in some crazy old temple. This is an old vault of the Guardians that Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, the Green Lanterns, of course. And then behind them, you can see that in these tubes, there's like these old corpses with the Green Lantern insignia on there. They didn't know at the time, but these are some of the corpses of the original 7 Green Lanterns. So it's like crazy sci-fi stuff, wild, but then also like look at how he illustrates Simon and Jessica, and look at those poses, and look how naturalistic they are. And I love this page right from the first that I saw it. I got a JPEG in an email from Robson, and I printed it out and I put it on my wall. It's still on my wall, my office wall right over here. But there's nothing like having the original art in your hands and just see the craft and the time that went into a piece like this. But it's also amazing just to have a one-of-a-kind keepsake from this run, something that, you know, this page is something that only Robson and I have in common. It's a really amazing way to look back and celebrate the work that we did together. All right, y'all, I could do this all day, and I probably will just by myself, but your time with my collection is up. It's time for you to go, but before you do, I'm gonna have to search your bag. That's right, because I saw you looking at my collection and all my precious treasures. You will just let the security guard do that at the bottom. Thank you very much. Goodbye.